Two tests for Fiji this July, folks. Taking on the Wallabies and taking on Scotland. Should be a really interesting couple of games, largely because of where these teams are at in their current world rankings. The Wallabies are 8th, Fiji's 1 behind them in 9th, and Scotland are 2 ahead of Fiji in 7th. So 7th, 8th, and 9th. It's a shame Fiji don't get a third game. A lot of teams are playing a third test in the July period, but for these two tests, we have a squad. It's largely a core of Fijian and Drua players, but with a bit of talent sprinkled in from Europe. What are the expectations? What are the permutations for their world rankings? And what do you guys reckon we should be expecting from this Fijian side? Because the last time they played the Wallabies, they beat them. And the last time they played Scotland in Fiji, they beat them. So they got an away game against the Wallabies first. The Wallabies will certainly be looking to use this game as their prep for the Lions. So potentially a chance for Fiji to sweep the rug from under them and cause all kinds of havoc ahead of that Lions Tour match. But in terms of world rankings points, like the core of it for Fiji, they could put themselves in a really interesting position ahead of the November tests if they were to win both of these games. The Scots are in a similar position where they're chasing down that 6th spot, so really need to get a win over in Suva. So that Scotland-Fiji one in particular is going to be very hotly contested. Now, for the squad, I mentioned the core is largely the Drua, which is to be expected in Super Rugby. It's part of the reason they were kind of added to Super Rugby to bolster that depth in the Pacific. But some of the big guns are there. Some of the big guns are missing. There's no Semi Radradra. There's no Pasili Yato. Nayatho Levu ended up retiring from Test Rugby not that long ago. There's no Karawa Levu. So a bunch of these guys, some of the outside backs, Radradra is probably the biggest name one, are conspicuous in their absence. The coach, Mick Byrne, did say some players are unavailable because of club changes and movements and whatnot. So that's unfortunate when you see some of the best guys missing out. But somebody missing out is going to mean a chance for somebody else. But who are the big gun players who are here? The biggest gun, who's probably the main name off many people's lips when you're talking Fiji rugby, Joshua Tuisova. What a unit of a man. He's going to be doing dominant tackles. He's going to be busting tackles, chalking through run meters, whether he's on the wing or in the midfield. He is certainly a hell of a guy to have, and he is the oldest guy in the back line in the Fijian squad at the moment at 31. He's also the most capped with, I think, 25. So that's a heck of a guy to have. And there's also some tries in the rest of the Fijian back line because you've got Mangala. He had 11 tries for Bayonne this top 14 season. You've got Ravovo, who's had 11 tries for Bristol this season and was chalking up all kinds of run meters and defenders beaten stats over there. And then you've got Waiting Lolo, who's also had 9 tries for Toulon. So there's a bunch of tries in this Fijian backline, which is probably a surprise to nobody because Fiji breeds try scoring, particularly outside backs, but other positions in the backline too. Celeste Reasi is an interesting call-up because he played his rugby in New Zealand for many years with the Hurricanes, was a fan favourite for many. Never managed to get a call-up for the All Blacks, but he does get a chance to potentially make his test debut for the Flying Fijians. So he's another kind of electric winger to add to a team which is already stacked with electric wingers. A few areas of concern of the backline is they're a little bit reliant on Kurivoli in terms of their number 9. They've got a couple of uncapped guys in Sam Y and Philip Baselala, who are both uncapped. One playing in the rugby in the NPC, and then Baselala is in the Fijian and Drua squad, but I don't think they used him this year, so there's a lot of pressure on Kurivoli. Fingers crossed he stays fit for both games. And then the number 10 question is still an interesting one. Armstrong Ravula and Caleb Muntz are the two guys, both Fijian and Drua players. Muntz didn't have as much time in the saddle as he would have liked this year. It's whether those guys can help unlock the talents of the players around them. Like Muntz, pre that injury he got ahead of the World Cup, was looking in cracking form, but I don't think we've seen him quite recapture that form. Like last year's Pacific Nations Cup was a little bit uninspired. You feel like you want that 10 to really boss the team around the paddock, lead from the front at times, be a real option to take the ball to the line, or just set up the exciting guys around you. It was more of just the kind of distribution and kicking game last year. And there's a few guys for the Drua who haven't really kind of hit 100% form this year, the likes of Ravu Tamanda, the likes of Yosefo Masi, who we know can excel at a top level. I don't think we saw the best from them in the Super Rugby season. Logan Amasi on the wing was certainly one of the top guys in the competition for like clean breaks and run meters, even if people, I don't know, he seems to rub some Fijian fans up the wrong way, but stats-wise, he had a pretty decent year for Fiji, at least going forward. Not so much defensively, but you don't really look at defensive numbers when you're picking your wingers. But those are the Fijian backs. Like I mentioned, there's some tries in there, a little bit of a lack of depth at 9, and the 10 call, they could even go with Botito at 10. He's played there before. He could end up in the midfield. But yeah, the 10 needs to be able to unlock these really exciting backs around them. For the forwards, I think you're pretty happy to have the likes of Maui and Tangi as the 2 probably starting props. And the other guys are the Drua guys, the likes of Hetet and Dongye and Ravai. So just the 5 props, but Ravai can cover both sides. The 35-year-old, I think, is the oldest man in the squad. I feel like the second row is pretty stacked, and Hooker kind of looks familiar. Ikanaveri is there, big carries, big run meters, sometimes gets himself into a little bit of hot water discipline-wise. And the veteran Matsavesi is still there as well. And then you got the uncapped guy who's in the Drua squad, Kavala Tangive-Taua. Apologies for the pronunciation of that one. He's only 22. I don't even think he's played for the Drua yet, but he's played for Fiji's under-20 squad, so certainly more of a kind of experience-building pick with him. The second row, like I mentioned, I think looks pretty stacked because you've got the youngster Turangatoki, who's the big, like 19-year-old, 2-meter tall, almost 120 kilo, big unit of a man, playing his rugby over in France. He's had a couple of caps for Fiji. Then Mayana Vanua from Northampton, Voisese, who's the big liner operator in the Drua, and then Sila as well. So I think locks-wise, you're pretty sorted. And then back row is a good mixture of overseas guys and Drua guys as well, like Vili Mata. He's back. If he can get his offload game going at number 8 will be interesting. But then he's going to be competing with Thanakai Vata and also Tui Sui for that number 8 role. Although Tui Sui with Gloucester this year, I think, was more of a bench replacement kind of role. So that might sort him better if he covers, number 8 blindside, potentially even lock in a pinch. And then, Motakai Murray did well open side for the Drua at times this year. Bagged himself a couple of tries, busting tackles, winning turnovers. Maybe one of the better turnover threats in the Fijian back row. Wanga, I think he's going to be getting his first cap if he gets a run for Fiji, potentially on the blind side. He's also another decently good line-out operator for a loose forward. And then Tangi Valu, who's also a bit of a big unit, could play lock loose forward. Meter 95 is kind of that hybrid area, but yeah, playing his rugby over in Po, he could add a bit of physical presence as well. So yeah, there's some options for Coach McBurn. You feel like set piece will, as always, be interesting because Scotland are missing a couple of their key props, so there might be a chance for Fiji to put a bit of pressure on there. You think the Wallabies might end up picking a pretty big pack, so that might be a bigger test for how their scrum goes in that game. They'll need to secure their line-out ball. Tackle percentage last year was a wee bit low, so defensive system needs to get a bit more with it. But ultimately, I think you just want to see Fiji play a bit of Fijian attacking rugby. I know they need to kind of balance it with test match rugby in 2025, which is about the maul and about the scrum and about the set piece, but yeah, they still need to, you feel like, stick to their DNA, which at times has been absent under McBurn. But we will see. They could potentially threaten higher spots in the world rankings if they can bag themselves a couple of wins. Like I mentioned, recent record in Fiji against Scotland is good, although it's 2017 the last time they played, so not exactly that recent. It's almost a decade. And the Wallabies will have a lot of pressure on them ahead of the Lions tour. Could be a chance for Fiji to steal the show. You guys let us know your thoughts on the squad. What are your expectations for them? Who are you disappointed to see missing the squad? How do you think the core of Drua players is going to go? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Take care. Talk to you guys again soon. See you later.